We're now going to look at the next couple of indices laws. So they're both shown here. We're going to start off with this one, which is the power of a power law. So we've got x to the power of m, and then we're going to take that whole thing and we're going to put it to the power of n. Now, when we do that, what happens is these two index numbers can actually just multiply each other. So we can show you a real life example of that, how we can put that together. So let's see, we'll do x to the power of 2, and we could cube that. So again, that's a power in here and the power of this power here. So let's start off by looking at what that would look like if we just cube what's in the bracket. So that's x squared times x squared times x squared. Now, thinking about our other index laws, when we multiply indices, we add the index numbers. So we're going to add these two index numbers and then add again. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 gives us 6. But more importantly here, what we're doing when we're doing 2 plus 2 plus 2 is we've got 3 lots of 2 or 3 times 2. So that's going to become x to the power of 6. Now, the next one, this law here, where I've got a product of two things. Product is what you get when you multiply two things. So any two things multiplying each other are a product. And then this power outside. So this is the power of a product. And what happens here is if I've got a product in a bracket like this, a times x, and I put that to the power of n, then that power acts on the a and it acts on the x. So again, I can show you a real life example of this. Let's take something like 2x to the power of 3. And write out what that would look like. So it's 2x is being cubed there, so that's 2x multiplied by 2x multiplied by 2x. Now the important thing about this is when we're multiplying, order doesn't matter. So what we've got here is 2 times x times 2 times x times 2 times x. But if you think about 4 times 5 and 5 times 4, they're both the same, so we can swap the order around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring all the 2's to the front, so that's now 2 times 2 times 2. And leave all the x's at the end. So x times x times x. And what I end up with then is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 2 cubed, and x times x times x, which is x cubed. And there we can see that this power of 3, it goes on to the 2, and it goes on to the x. So 2 cubed, I probably wouldn't leave like that though. In this one, I would change that to 8x cubed. We're now going to look at 3 examples using these laws. So we'll start off with example A. We're asked to simplify x cubed all to the power of 5. So this is a power of a power. So we're using this rule here, which tells us we're going to just take the two index numbers and multiply together. So 3 times 5 is 15. So that's x to the power of 15. In this one here, we have a product inside the bracket. So an a times x, in this case 5 times x. And it's all to a power. So what we're going to see here is that power is going to come down and act on the a, and that power is going to come down and act on the x. So that 3 will go here, so it'll become 5 to the power of 3. And it'll also move it from here to here, so that'll become x to the power of 3. Now the only thing with this is I wouldn't leave it like that, I wouldn't leave it as 5 cubed. I would actually work that out, so that's 5 times 5 times 5. 5 5s are 25, times 5 again is 125, so 125 x cubed. The next one is a bit of a combination of both of those rules. So again, we have a product in here, so 4 times, and then it's multiplying the x squared, and we've got a power of that. So that 3 is going to come down onto the 4, and that 3 is also going to cube the x squared. So let's have a look at this. I've got, using this law here, that 3 goes onto the 4, so that's 4 to the power of 3. And then the other part here is x squared. That's also got to go to the power of 3. So what I have then is x squared also to the power of 3. Now, the 4 cubed is fine. That can just be changed into 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. And this bit here I'm left with is x squared cubed. So this is actually a product of a power of a power again. So that 2 and that 3, we can just multiply them together. So that becomes x to the power of 6. Now, it would be absolutely fine if you went at this stage, just put x to the power of 6 in this space. I'm just trying to show what's happening here by splitting this into a product of 4, the product of 4 and x squared. You can now try these 4 examples here. So pause the video and then try the 4 examples and then press play when you're ready to go over them. First one here, part A, we have x to the power of 4 to the power of 5. So this is this law here, where we have a power to another power. Okay, so what we do is we multiply the indices, or the index numbers, so m times n here, 4 times 5 in this case, so that's x to the power of 20. In example B, we have a product inside the bracket 3 times x, so two things multiplying each other. So this is the power of a product, which is this law here, which means this power will act on each individual term. So the power of 4 will act on the 3, and the power of 4 will act on the x, giving us 3 to the power of 4, x to the power of 4. Now, I need to go a bit further with this one because I would want to work out what 3 to the power of 4 is. So 3 to the power of 4 is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Now 3 3s are 9, times 3 again is 27, times 3 again is 81. So that becomes 81x to the 4. We'll now look at example C. What we have here is, again, two things in the bracket multiplying each other. So we have a product, but we also have the other rule to consider here, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start off with just the product inside the bracket to the power of 3. That's similar to this example here. Now that means that this power of 3 will act on the 5, but it will also act on the x squared. So that's going to be 5 to the power of 3 and x squared to the power of 3. Now, when we go through this, 5 to the power of 3 is 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125. And what we're left with here is this x squared to the power of 3. So this is a power in the bracket to another power. So this is this example here. What I'm going to need to do is multiply the indices together, or multiply the index numbers together. So 2 times 3 there gives me 6. So that last part will become x to the power of 6. Remember, when we're doing indices, we're trying to combine all of the laws we know up to this point. So we've got these 4 laws so far. So here we have an example of one where you're going to require a couple of those laws. I want to divide what's up here by x squared. So the first step is to realise that I'll need to work out what this is first before I do that. So x to the power of 8 to the power of 9, that's our power to a power. So we'll do the 8 times the 9. That's going to give us, and I'll work across the way just for space, x to the power of 72 at the top over x squared. What that turns that into is just a simple division. So that's where we're going to use this law. X to the m divided by x to the n is x to the n minus m. So I'm going to subtract the indices here. 72 take away 2 is going to give me x to the power of 70.